Hello. Thank you for joining me again. I hope that by now you're beginning to get a sense of the uniqueness of these teachings and how appropriate they are as a package of awareness for this new age. I'd like to begin by sharing an experience that I hope demonstrates to some extent the power of these spiritual teachings and the love they bring. I was going through a particularly challenging time in July 1998, coping with the demand for healing as well as other issues. When at the end of a busy day, I listened to the news on the current depressing situation in the world. And I remember sitting at my desk with my head in my hands, thinking of Zed's words to me when he said, "Take our teachings into the world, for they are sorely needed." I felt overwhelmed with grief, feeling that I had failed. And I sent out this prayer. I said, "I've never asked for anything, but now, if I have not failed, send me a sign." A day or two later, a client arrived in a state of excitement. This lady had responded quite dramatically and physically to our previous healing session on a badly reset, broken leg. Laying in a prone position, her leg began performing self-correcting movements, stretching and turning and pulling itself back into shape. Afterwards, the lady wanted to know more about what had happened. So we had a chat, and before she left, I also gave her a little booklet about the Zed Teachings. So that was the background, and now she arrived for a top-up healing, waving the booklet in the air. And she said, "I thought of you." And I don't know what she's talking about. She said, "You know, Zed," and no, sorry. She said, "On the news." I had no idea what she was talking about. Then she explained. And this is an extract from a report that I found online, which will give you an idea. The report was headed, "Light Phenomenon Seen by Hundreds in the UK. An unusual light phenomenon which resembled a giant letter Z was seen on both sides of the Irish Sea after 10:30 p.m. on Friday, July the 10th, 1998. According to a BBC report, a large meteorite is being blamed for hundreds of sightings along the west coast of Britain on Friday evening. Initially, authorities were baffled about the source of the lights, which looked like the giant letter Z or the number 2. Throughout Friday evening, police and coast guards from Cornwall to Scotland were inundated with calls from people who spotted the light, though most came from people living around the Irish Sea. Coast guards in Belfast said that they had received dozens of 999 calls and admitted they had seen the light in the sky over the north coast of Ireland. A spokesman said the light had a large Z shape. Its appearance lasted over an hour. There was more, but that was the general gist of the report. But there was no logical explanation. But I knew, the moment my client told me about it, that my prayer had been answered, and all was going as it should. I tell you this story not to suggest any status on my part, but to demonstrate, I hope, the status, the importance of these deeply spiritual teachings in the world today. An example of the amazing power of the universe behind the words. Many times over the years, we were told that there is a right time for things to happen, that many pieces of the jigsaw have to come together in a precise way and at a precise time. Such advice is sometimes hard to take. We want to see a particular outcome. We want to make things happen soon. But like that ant in its nest, we can't see the whole picture from where we stand. There is what you might call an overall plan. But within that plan there is choice. Otherwise we would be mere puppets, and there would be no point in us being here. When I was asked to start teaching again, there were many times when I almost panicked about how to set up a podcast channel, what kind of order I should present the teachings in, whether I should wear lipstick, and so on. The guidance was to the point. Don't overthink. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not about what you need. It's about what people need. But the most important guidance was this. The words will go out because it is time. I speak to you now in 2025, and our world is in a state of wars and chaos. The effects of climate change that the teachings spoke about in 1988 are now a reality, with droughts, fires, floods, etc., resulting in the failed harvests, in famine, and in the destruction of whole habitats and species. And yet, the world is still dominated by greed and ignorance. In Zed's words, it's as if man will never learn. For all your great leaders have mirrors of illusion. You see a world that would spend billions on high technology weapons to destroy each other, but would not buy a small bowl of rice for a starving child. He said, violence solves nothing. Economic barriers solve nothing. You are part of a large human family. Because the colour of your skin is different, because you speak in a different language and have different customs, is that a reason not to love each other? Does it hurt someone of another nationality to die less than one of your kinsmen? For are we not of the same family? And when your religious leaders talk of a just war to promote peace, I say to you, they speak with no authority but their own. If you lived in a little house as brothers and sisters, and one was to kill the other, you'd be horrified, wouldn't you? But the family of man is no different. He said, look from the far corners of the universe, as we do, to this little planet. He said some of the early space travelers felt this. And see how minute these differences are in a universal being motivated by universal love. Homo sapiens is an important part of the experience, but so is life itself. And when, oh when, will you see your role as part of the universe and not as a separate points of power on this tiny planet? When will you truly see yourselves as children of the universe? When will your species move from the classroom and play its full role in developing universal experience? I've come across a particular movement lately, and I think this might apply to it. Zed said, some are led to believe that such a loss of life is a divine wish, and they talk of a new age in which many will perish. Nothing could be further from the truth. Such would fly in the face of our understandings and teachings when we talk of the energy of love, of the being of experience motivated by energy and love, when we talk of the higher self which has all knowledge but lacks experience. Do you think we would resort to cruelty and death, to achieve that knowledge? That we would wipe millions off the face of the planet, creating the most terrible group karma in order that highly evolved ones could progress? Such thoughts are nonsense. It is man's greed and hatred and ignorance and choice. Cruelty has no pathway in our lives. Thank you for joining me. I hope your meditations are going well. Goodbye.